Hello, my name is Chaley Welker, and this is my second book critique. The book I have chosen to highlight is the Caldecott Award winner, The Man Who Walked Between the Towers. This is a true story about a man named Philippe who walked across the Twin Towers in New York City on a tightrope. It is Philippe's life goal to do this, and nothing was going to stop him. The story is full of adventure and suspense, and it is engaging for the reader. I chose this book because of its engaging storyline. Although Philippe is forbidden to follow his dream of walking on a tightrope between the towers, he does not give up. Instead, he does all that he can in order to fulfill his dream. I think that Philippe can be an excellent example to students by showing them that they can accomplish anything they set their minds to. The first lesson I have created for this book is a history lesson. Students will study the Twin Towers more in depth and learn their significance in American history. Each student will pick a topic from the following options: the origin and construction of the Twin Towers, what the Twin Towers were used for, and what happened to the Twin Towers. After choosing their topic, each student will conduct research and collect information and then use this information to create an infographic using Piktochart. After creating their infographics, each student will present his or her findings in groups of 3. Here is an example of an infographic I have created that discusses the history of the construction of the Twin Towers. It includes a storyline. It includes a timeline of when it was constructed, as well as some interesting facts about the towers themselves. The second lesson I have created is a second grade math lesson on measurement. The teacher will present the students with a string that is 140 feet long, which is the length Philippe walked from one tower to the other. As a class, using the string, students will measure things in their school to try and find something that is as long as Philippe's walk. They will measure each thing and think of how it compares to their 140-foot long string. They will start with their classroom and then measure something like their hallway, and then they can measure the playground, and lastly, they will measure a football field, which is 160 feet long. Lastly, the students will take turns walking across the line from one end of the football field to the other in order to gain a better understanding of how far Philippe had to walk. The next 7 books I will be discussing are the other books I have chosen to read for this book critique. I Want My Hat Back by Jon Klassen is a story about a bear who is trying to find his hat. He encounters multiple woodland creatures and one by one asks them if they have seen his hat. Soon he becomes sulky because he can't find it anywhere, and then a deer comes by and asks him why he is upset. The bear has a realization and remembers that he has seen his hat and runs back to fetch it. The book Puss in Boots follows the life events of a young man and his cat. Throughout the story, the farmer is afraid he will starve because he owns no possessions but his cat, Puss. Puss reassures his owner that he will take care of him, if he only will get him a pair of boots. After Puss receives his boots, he uses his cat reflexes and skills to catch wild game for the king. He soon gains the favor of the king and eventually helps his owner to become a very rich man who ends up marrying the princess. Esperanza Rising is about the journey of a young girl named Esperanza who, through a series of tragic events, including the death of her father and the burning down of her home, is forced to migrate from Mexico to California. The events in this story describe how she overcomes the various obstacles that life throws her way and the lessons that she learns from them. This book is full of poems about a life at an imaginary inn where all sorts of fantastic events take place. They are written by Nancy Willard, who writes about dragons that bake, king of cats, and flying cars. She dedicates this book to the famous poet William Blake, who also is the owner of the inn in her story. This is a true story about the life of Duke Ellington, a forerunner in the evolution of jazz. It speaks of Duke's journey from a boy who refused to play the piano to a man who became one of the most talented pianists in jazz history. The Duke became known for even more than his piano skills. He was the most famous for his amazing jazz music writing abilities. Cajun Night Before Christmas is a creative variation of the classic book The Night Before Christmas. Through a narrative poem, it uses the Cajun dialect to tell the story of the night before Christmas on a bayou in Louisiana. It is a humorous book and holds insights to the culture and traditions of Louisiana. Sarah Plain and Tall is about a family of 3, a father, a daughter, and a son, who send out an ad in the newspaper for a wife and mother. The father's previous wife had died in childbirth before the story takes place. Sarah responds to the family's request and slowly begins to build a relationship with the family through writing letters. She eventually comes to visit the family, and as they get to know each other, Sarah falls in love with the family, and the family with her. This concludes my second book critique. Thank you for viewing!